Hello, this is Carla Cross. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, I'm going to tell you how to actually make your training sparkle. And why am I doing this? Well, for years I've taught an instructor development workshop in the state of Washington to certify people in the workshop to teach clock hour approved courses, and I've taught instructor development all over the United States to various entities. And here's what I found. In 2 days, I can't really teach somebody how to be a master instructor. Gee, it took me years and many of these instructor development workshops of taking them from different people before I really felt comfortable making presentations sparkle. So I'm doing this series to help you cut that time frame, and so you don't have to spend all the time and money that I did on learning how to put creative presentation techniques into your workshops. So what I've done is create a 5-part video series that I call Creative Teaching Techniques to increase learning and audience engagement. So let's jump right into the first one. And first I have some questions for you. Now, what are your biggest teaching concerns? I want you to really think about that. Because when I'm teaching instructor development workshop, a lot of people say, well, I want to, make my workshop more interesting, or I want to hold attendees' attention. And sometimes they want to do that by telling jokes. So some of the things that people look for as solutions prove to them not to be solutions. Or maybe I want to handle attendee challenges. I want to maybe reduce my nervousness. And one of the things that people don't say very often, but that we really should be concerned with is how can we be assured that they actually learned? Because I've seen instructors, and by the way, I used to be one of these, who would talk real fast, shove a whole bunch of information into the presentation and think, well, I did my job. And afterwards, some people would say, well, I didn't get what I came for, or she didn't give me any meat, or this isn't what I thought it would be. And I'm like, what are you talking about? All there was meat. Because you see, I wasn't building in how to assure they really learned something. So the strategies in this series will address and solve these challenges. So I want you to listen up, grab your pencil and paper, and get ready for notes. And by the way, the rest of these video series are also on my channel, the Carla Cross channel on YouTube. So the first one is called How to Create the Most Effective Workshop. And the reason I did this first is that this is basically the overview. What we generally think of is not how to create the most effective workshop, but how can I be the most stunning, riveting presenter? And the problem is that's a real old idea about how to train and teach effectively today, because we cannot hold people's attention over a long period of time. We ourselves, we have to have some strategies to do that. So let's take a look at the #1 way that we create an effective workshop. We start with the end in mind. Now, most of the time we don't do that. What we do is we write down a laundry list of all the things we want in a workshop. But here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to think of a workshop or presentation that you're going to give. Now, I want you to think of yourself in front of your audience. And I want you to think of the end of the workshop. I want you to ask yourself this question: what do I want the students, not you, not what you want to get across, but what do you want the students and to be able to do? Not what to hear, not what to understand, not what to get, but be able to do by the end of this workshop. Why is that important? Because if we're going to be sure that our training is effective, we want to focus on the doing, be able to do, not on the knowing. And 95% of all the courses taught in real estate focus on the doing. So I want you to start with the end in mind. You're in the workshop. It's the end of the workshop. You look at the students, and the students are asking themselves, what can I do now better than when I came in? Or you're asking yourself, is the student able to do what I thought I taught him to do? Got that? So that's number one. That's where you start with any workshop, because otherwise you don't know when you got to the end. So let's take a look then at an example of this. The question is, what do I want the students to be able to do by the end of the workshop? And by the way, that's called one of your learning objectives. And in our state, we have to write the learning objectives when we submit a course. Whether you have to or not, I want you to write especially the skill learning objectives. As a result of this workshop, students will be able to. I don't want you to put no after it. Okay. Will they be able to answer 3 objections? Explain title insurance to a seller? Give a listing presentation? Use a behavioral predictor? That means a kind of a question to interview a candidate. What is it you want them to be able to do better than when they walked in? Now, I want you to grab that course. Have you written some skill learning objectives? Here's an example. As a result of this workshop, students will be able to, and that's a skill learning objective, beginning sentence, you always start. Now, remember, it's from the student perspective, not yours. So it doesn't count if you say, I want the students to do this or know this. We don't care about you. It's what the student will be able to do. So an example is, use a workshop cheat sheet to create an effective workshop. And that's one of the things that I teach you how to do in my instructor development workshop, or Train the Trainer course, or the Complete Real Estate Trainer's Guide. Or write 3 types of learning objectives. In those 3 courses I told you about, teach you how to do that. Or demonstrate through teaching they can execute a skill-based workshop. In my live instructor development workshop, that's exactly what we do. I watch you actually execute. Why? Otherwise, how do I know you can do it? Because you pass the test? Because you tell me? Nah, that doesn't make the grade, does it? And you know that from trying to do some things that you supposedly learned in some workshop, and you tried to do them later, and they crashed on you. So those are examples of skill learning objectives that for us as real estate trainers, or any trainers where you need to change people's behavior, you have to have skill learning objectives. So I want you to answer these questions before you teach that course. Who's the end user? That is, who is going to actually use the skill? Is it an agent? Is it a trainer? Who's the receiver of the skill? Is it a client? Give you an example. One of the mistakes we make when we're teaching writing a purchase and sale agreement is that all we do is to tell the agents how to fill in all the blanks. Well, in that case, yes, the agent is the end user, but who is the receiver? The buyer or the seller? So if you're going to teach an agent how to write a purchase and sale agreement, you must have a module in that course about presenting that, and you have to have the agent practice explaining first to the buyer and then presenting to the seller. You see what I mean? Because otherwise, oh boy, all heck breaks loose. Can you imagine how that agent tries to explain all that stuff to the buyer when all you did was run through it for 2 or 3 hours? And then the agent tries to go and present. Oh my gosh, it's no wonder new agents fail so miserably so long, because we don't teach them properly. Now, toward the end of your workshop, are you creating the most lifelike situation possible to get the end user to practice the skill with the receiver? So I want you to write down. You've got your workshop. I want you to think of who's the end user, who's using what you're teaching, and then who's the receiver, because you have to have most likely role play toward the end of your workshop to test those two things. So next, I want you to grab my tips on how to create a great training calendar. Why? Because I want you to be able to promote what you're doing. And so what I created is a document for you that asks you lots of questions about your training calendar and gives you some tips on how to use that training calendar to promote the courses and to recruit. So all you need to do is to go to the address there, and you can get my training calendar. In each one of these videos, I'm going to give you something to help you take that next step. But the training calendar is so important. Very, very few managers use it, and yet it is a great tool. Why? Because you want to use that training calendar first as part of your business plan. That's where your training plan comes in. Now, I have some more teaching and presentation resources for you that I mentioned before. So if you go to carlacross.com, you can see specific training resources for presentation strategies, a comprehensive trainer's guide, how to write a course guide. I've never seen anybody do this, so I created a course and a resource in how to write a course. And then finally, coaching guides. I love this quote. Practice is the hardest part of learning, and training is the essence of transformation. So in other words, what she's saying is, if you don't have practice inside your course, how in the world do you assure they've learned what you wanted to teach them how to do? So in the next videos, I'm going to show you exactly how to put practice in. Now, before we go, don't forget to grab my free guide to creating a great training calendar, and you can get it, and I want you to grab your pen again and jot this down, okay? http carla-cross.com /P=2983. Now, these will be recorded. These are recorded, so you can always go back and grab what you need. So thank you very much for watching. You started at the end with the end in mind, and then you named your action or your skill objectives. You ask yourself, who's the end user and who's the receiver, so that you can start thinking in terms of how you're going to create a workshop that really works. Now, what I'm going to do for you in the next videos is to show you how to actually accomplish each one of those things. So thank you very much for looking. Oh, by the way, I can't forget to tell you, can I? The picture. Who are those little girls? Well, as you can probably imagine, that's me tickling the ivories. I'm about 6. I think that's my first recital. And where did I learn to teach skills? Truly not in real estate, but as a practicing and teaching musician. And that's my little sister up there. Looks really happy to be there, right? No, she was never happy to have her picture taken. But me, look at me. I'm not smiling too much, but I was always happy to perform. So, just to let you know, that's where all this information came from me being in the trenches first as a performing musician and teaching musician, and then as a performing and teaching real estate professional. So in other words, I know this stuff works. So let me know how it works for you. You can always email me at my website, carlacross.com. Thanks a lot for watching, and watch for the next video.